perhaps had God not sent us to America, America might have self-destructed by now. That's how insane the social construct of racism is, and white superiority. That's how insane. This is an insane. Do you understand that this is an insane concept? The most egregious concept of slavery, because Africans were familiar with slavery, but you were indentured, you were enslaved to work on a pyramid, but then you went home. No. They took it to a whole new level. No, not only are you enslaved, but when you have children, they will be enslaved, and when they have children, they will be enslaved, and you will be enslaved, your whole family, for about 250 years until it's illegal. That had never been created before. So the concept of racism and the most egregious form of slavery is simple insanity. How another human being can come up with something like that and sustain it for centuries is a clear sign of insanity. I want you to write this down. I want you to go on YouTube today or tomorrow, and I want you to search Toni Morrison and Charlie Rose. How many of you know who Charlie Rose is? One of the best interviewers on PBS. Toni Morrison and Charlie Rose interview. How could an America who could morally, spiritually, and biblically justify the kidnapping, raping, and pillaging of another two people, natives already in America and Africans brought to America, and perhaps had God not sent us to America, America might have self-destructed by now. That's how insane the social construct of racism is, and white superiority. That's how insane. This is an insane. Do you understand that this is an insane concept? The most egregious concept of slavery, because Africans were familiar with slavery, but you were indentured, you were enslaved to work on a pyramid, but then you went home. No. They took it to a whole new level. No, not only are you enslaved, but when you have children, they will be enslaved, and when they have children, they will be enslaved, and you will be enslaved, your whole family, for about 250 years until it's illegal. That had never been created before. So the concept of racism and the most egregious form of slavery is simple insanity. How another human being can come up with something like that and sustain it for centuries is a clear sign of insanity. I want you to write this down. I want you to go on YouTube today or tomorrow, and I want you to search Toni Morrison and Charlie Rose. How many of you know who Charlie Rose is? One of the best interviewers on PBS. Toni Morrison and Charlie Rose interview. Charlie Rose asked Toni Morrison, what does she think about racism? Toni Morrison, one of the most brilliant minds on the planet, not just black, Nobel laureate, Pulitzer Prize winning Toni Morrison, looked at Charlie with the seriousness of a heart attack and said, that is the wrong question, Charlie. The question is, what do you think about racism? Charlie Rose is white. She said, because racism feels insane to me. And it is insane. So my advice to you, Charlie, is that white people get therapy. That's what she told Charlie Rose on public television. Y'all need to get therapy. I don't know why more of America isn't talking about this. And leave black people alone and not let your insanity drive us insane. because that's what you're trying to do. And they have done a very good job. So, I have come to the conclusion as a 70-year-old black man living in America, we cannot fix white people. We haven't been able to fix them in 400 years. We cannot fix them. White people must fix white people. This is what Toni Morrison said. Y'all got to fix yourself. We can't fix you. We have failed. You got to fix you. But we can fix ourselves. That's the most important thing. We can undo over time some of the damage done to us by their insanity. And we are damaged goods. I don't have to explain that to you, right? Just look at our behavior. So we are damaged goods, and we need to work on us. We can fix us. In fact, white folks are not going to fix us. Do you understand that? They haven't in 400 years. Who are white folks going to fix? White folks. Asians are going to fix Asians. East Indians are working on East Indians. They ain't working on you. Right? Arabs are working on Arabs. Our Jewish brothers and sisters are working on their issues and their people. That's who they should be working on. So they're not going to fix us. I have a good white friend who said to me, George, I know what black people's problem is. I said, oh really, Bob? What is black people's problem? He said, you spend all of your time thinking about us and we don't spend any of our time thinking about you. So George, if you're not thinking about you, and we damn sure ain't thinking about you, who's thinking about you? I had to do the Holy Ghost dance. I had no comeback. I had no comeback. So that's right. So we have to spend our time working on us. And there is much work to do. Right? So we'll put a pin in that thought. Look at a very, very short video that speaks powerfully to one of the reasons you must be at the Power Networking Conference in your own backyard. It is a concept that I've been working on for 30 years. And now I don't know if you know, but I'm the brother that came up with the term connect the dots. Right? I've been saying that for almost 30 years. It's now a very, very popular phrase, but if you read any of my books, the first one to say that, the first one to put that together. So I think Cassandra is going to start this piece, and let me frame it up for you. Just hold on one second, Cassandra. This was a piece I did 8 years ago at Eddie Long's church in Atlanta during the State of Black America with Tavis Smiley. How many of you remember those big all-day programs, the State of Black America? And I was called upon to be on the stage with the likes of Minister Farrakhan, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Cornel West, Michael Eric Dyson, the who's who of Black intelligentsia. And I talked about my concept of connecting the dots. And someone found this on YouTube because Tavis videotaped it, excerpted the soundtrack from the piece, and then put together a little drawing that illustrated this idea of connecting the dots.
Warriors, I think once asked you the question, can you imagine writing a novel that's not centered about race? And you said absolutely.
Yes.
Will you?
That's what he asked me. I think, see, I answered the question he didn't pose. You know, Tolstoy writes about race.
Yeah.
he or she is also racist. So to ask me when am I going to stop, and or when, if I can, is to ask a question that, in a sense, is its own answer. Yes, I can write about white people. White people can write about black people. Anything can happen in art. There are no boundaries there. Having to do it or having to prove that I can do it is what was embarrassing or insulting. In this book, I did.
It was insulting that people, help me understand, what was insulting? The idea that you felt like you had to prove that you could write without...
Yeah, the question was posed as though it were a desirable thing to do, to write about white people or to write not about race. That's what that means to me. And that it was a difficult thing to do, a higher level of artistic endeavor, or it was more important that I was still writing about marginal people, and why don't I come into the mainstream?
Aren't you importing too much into the question?
Maybe.
I think so.
But what else could it be, Charlie? What does that mean? What does that question mean? You tell me if I'm making too much.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I don't think it probably means, I didn't ask the question, so I don't think it probably means, but I don't think it had to do about you were marginalizing by not writing about.
It only works if I can go to William Styron, well, maybe not William Styron because he has done it, somebody major, white, and say, as a journalist,
Can you write about black people?
that's right. Can I say that? What kind of question is that to put to Ed Doctorow, who has done it, by the way? But I mean, if I can say, when are you going to write about black people to a white writer, if that's a legitimate question to a white writer, then it is a legitimate question to me. I just don't think it is. So the glove has to be pulled inside out. In other words, it's not a literary question. It has nothing to do with the literary imagination. It's a sociological question that should not be put to me. I couldn't ask that of any writer who was, I wouldn't ask it of a black writer when you're going to write about white people. Now, maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me now or later if I've blown it up all out of proportion. I don't think so. I just don't know what the question means except what I think it means. You think it may just be a little question, a little curious, small, incidental question. When are you going to... Maybe I'm responding because I have had reviews in the past that have accused me of not writing about white people. I remember a review of Sula in which the reviewer said, this is all well and good, but one day she, meaning me, will have to face up to the real responsibilities and get mature and write about the real confrontation for black people, which is white people. As though our lives have no meaning and no depth without the white gaze. And I've spent my entire writing life trying to make sure that the white gaze was not the dominant one in any of my books. And the people who helped me most arrive at that kind of language were African writers. Chinua Achebe, Bessie Head. Those writers who could assume the centrality of their race because they were Africans. And they didn't explain anything to white people. Those questions were incomprehensible to them. Those questions that I would have as a minority living in an all-white country like the United States. But when I read the poetry of César, or the poetry of Senghor, or the novels particularly, Things Fall Apart was more important to me than anything. Only because there was a language, there was a posture, there were the parameters. I could step in now, and I didn't have to be consumed by or be concerned by the white gaze. That was the liberation for me. It has nothing to do with who reads the books. It my sovereignty and my authority as a racialized person had to be struck immediately with the very first book. And it was strange because in this country, many books, particularly then, 40s, 50s, you could feel the address of the narrator over my shoulder, talking to somebody else, talking to somebody white. I could tell because they're explaining things that they didn't have to explain. They were talking to me. It was that. It's profound for me. So that you may be right, maybe I'm over-dramatizing the whole question, which was innocent enough, because the problem of being free to write the way you wish to without this other racialized gaze is a serious one for an African American writer. Very serious.
I think this is one of those times where what you just said, you gave and ennobled an answer, regardless of the significance
That's good.
of the question. Hello, guys.
Welcome back. So we are looking at this video, so we are analyzing it. So America, as we know, America, the land, the beautiful America, the land of the freedom, as we know, the history of America, literally it was built on the blood of the black community, that is the black Americans. How did the black Americans come in America? So black Americans came about as a result of Africans who were sold to Arabs, to the Portuguese, as slaves. So they were transported through the Indian Ocean, the Transatlantic Ocean up to America. So American settlers, that is the white settlers, they bought these Africans and they put them to work in their plantations. All right, so for us Africans we call it farms, but for Americans they call them plantations. They're big pieces of land, thousands and thousands of acres, So these Africans who were slaves at that time, they toiled that land. They were made to do this hard labor with literally, should I say, no rest, little rest, food, and of course if you do any mistake you're going to be brutal, beaten. And some people survived, some people they died, and a lot of people died. So fast forward, these slaves, these African slaves who were in America working those plantations, for the white settlers, they thrived under these hardship situations. They ended up, forming a community among themselves. They intermarry among themselves. They ended up having children among themselves, And in a way, it was like a continuation, to make sure a continuation of slavery continue. At the same time, for these white settlers to continue having slaves to do the work for them. So fast forward, America fought for the end of slavery. They came up with this constitution where they say, all humans are equal. America should abolish slavery, and of course, the North state won. The South state was defeated, and of course, America fought, and then they united. So now we have 53 states of America joining, making the United States of America as we know about it today. So the black Americans, as we know, they ended up, becoming free. They ended up becoming part and parcel of American community. But on paper, it looks all rosy, but in reality, it wasn't like that. So the system itself in America is not equal, is not based on meritocracy. No, it's based on your color of your skin. It's based on your who you know. It's based on the type of club membership, something like that. Yes, they'll say, if you perform well, if you work hard, you're gonna get ahead of yourself. But in reality, when people in America look at the color of your skin, chances are they're going to judge you, especially if you are from the black American community or if you have a black skin. When they see a black person, they always associate it with bad, and when they see a white color person, they always associate with good. So even when it comes to applying for job application, you'll hear a black American telling you, oh, I had to change my name so that it sounds more white, because if I go with my black American name, somehow I will not get a job. Or you'll hear black Americans telling you, oh, for this type of job I have to work for this level of my the level I am working at, I have to work like 3, 4, 10 times harder than the white person, because I need to prove myself, I need to prove to them that I can do this work. So you see, there's those stereotypes, there's those biasness that is existing in American system. If you drive, well, you hear cases like driving when you're black, there's some certain things you need to do. Like, for example, when a cop try to stop you, you need to, you know, to start recording yourself, so that just in case they end up using aggressive force, or they want to kill you or something, everything is recorded just to protect yourself. You hear such cases. Or walking while you're black, you need to know your surrounding, way, which neighborhood you're walking, who is behind you. All these scenarios you are looking at, and you're wondering, America, what's happening to it? And this is what the black community, black Americans, are living every single day in America. And yes, there is white privilege, and yes, white people have accepted, they have come out and said there is white privilege, where you can do certain things and there are no repercussions, where you can abuse somebody, there are no repercussions, where you can beat up a cop somehow and you are being told, you know what, just go home with fair warnings. Or, you know, while if it was a black person end up doing such things, you will definitely be you'll be taken in prison, and of course judged and thrown away the key and serve maybe years in prison. Because if you look at American system, especially the prison cells, you'll see thousands and millions of black people, black Americans people, you know, incarcerated, and many are being incarcerated every single day. And of course there are some serious crimes, of course, and there's a misdemeanor crime, and there's small crimes, but at the end of the day there is a lot of black people, black Americans in the system. So exactly, this video is basically the scholars who are trying, you know, to ask those hard questions, those difficult questions. It's forcing people, you know, to look inward, to look at themselves and ask those questions where they're difficult to answer. And also, when you find the answer, you end up looking at yourself and wondering, what the hell is happening to my community, to my country in America? So what's going to happen to America? What is the future of America? Will America change? Only time will tell. Will the people of America, the whites and black, one day just unite and live as one big, happy community where they respect each other, where jobs are given and because of because you perform, because of meritocracy, you succeeded by your own, you know, education, performance, you know, not only jobs, where when you are looking for a house or loans, you're being given and no one is judging you because of the skin color, or no one is declining to give you a mortgage as a result of the skin color. Those kind of things, you know, where you're driving across America and you feel safe as a black person without being judged, without being stopped by cops left, right and center. Will America one day unite and remove racism under its system? Because every single day, America, wherever you walk, you hear racism is in the system. You hear whether you're black or white, you're going to be judged. And the people who usually face the harsh treatment, the brutal treatment, are the black people in community. Not the Latinos, the Hispanic, but mostly the black in America are the ones who suffer. Let me know what you think about this video. Drop your comments and please don't forget to subscribe.